Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing well. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by and hit that subscribe button to keep updated on all the content coming out. So last week I did a poll asking you guys what kind of videos you would like to see on this channel, and you guys answered with more 5 albums to get into a genre. So that's exactly what I'll be doing today. And specifically today, I'll be looking at none other than the DJENT category. So DJENT is a subgenre of music under the umbrella known as prog metal, and was originally created back in the late 80s, early 90s by none other than Frederick Thordendale, who is the guitarist of Meshuggah, aka DJesus. This is probably one of my favorite genres out there, as it pushes the limits on creativity and adds so many different elements that metalheads usually wouldn't use. We have synths, we have orchestration, we have choirs, we have so much variety in this genre. Because of that, it is easy to get lost. So with this video, I'm hoping to give a good variety of different DJENT variants that are out there for you to pick and choose, and then you can sort of go from there. But anyway, we're going to jump right into this. If you enjoy this video, give it a like and let's do this. To kick off this, we're going to be looking at Periphery's album P3. This is their 5th studio length album, and it was produced by Misha Mansoor and Adam Nolly Getgood, who also was the person who mixed it. In my opinion, this is my favorite album from the band. It sees them refining their sound to almost perfection, with each track bringing its own flair and visceral impact to the listener, and it's just goddamn beautiful. And on top of all that, it was so good that it was actually nominated for a Grammy on the 59th annual Grammy nominations, which I find to be very impressive because definitely this music is not for everyone. Even though this album is over an hour long, it is packed with so much variety in it, from the synthesis used, the choirs, the orchestration, the breakdowns, and all the creativity put behind it. It sees the band really pushing the sound to a point where they've become very distinct as a band compared to their previous work. This album also brings a nice balance between the more classic metal tones, as well as combining a lot of modern day fusion to it. And I think it's a great album to get anyone started on the DJENT scene. This album has pretty much something for everyone, and definitely if you didn't know where to go in the DJENT scene, this would be a perfect place to start. Moving on to our second pick, we have Politia with their album New Levels, New Devils. This saw the band going more avant-garde with their sound, incorporating more neoclassical vibes as well as jazz fusion, and in some cases even a bit of funk thrown in there for a bit of extra added flavor. In my opinion, Politia has always been a great band to get anybody into the DJENT scene because of how chill and laid back their sound is and how accessible it can be. One of the best examples is, of course, The Most Hated EP, which brings in EDM vibes and electronic elements that, if you're a person who's more into like top 40 stuff and dance music, you can kind of find something in here as well. But granted all that, I still think their album New Levels, New Devils is just the perfect album to get into the band because it shows so many different facets of them, from the track Goat, which is of course their neoclassical vibe, and tracks like Yas, which features members from the band Chon, which brings that more chiller, surfer feel to it as well. Granted, this is an instrumental album at its core, so no vocals here except for one section, which definitely comes off as a bit of a shocker because, again, this band does not do vocals, if ever. So with all that being said, it's definitely the easiest album to get into when it comes to the DJENT scene, with this more laid-back vibe and incorporating writing styles from R&B and pop music that will definitely be very accessible to new DJENT listeners. And that's my second pick for the DJENT category. So moving on, we have the album Altered State by Tesseract. And fun fact, this was actually my introduction into the DJENT scene. One day I just went on YouTube, typed in DJENT, and just clicked on the first thing that came up. And what came up was actually the live performance of the 3-part track of Matter. And this featured, of course, the vocalist at the time, Ash O'Hara, which this is the only album that he's featured on. The rest of the Tesseract discography is Daniel Tompkins. Now this album is a bit different compared to the other albums on this list, as this is definitely the more ambiental side of DJENT. This is a gorgeous album that brings such lush elements to it, with its soundscapes that really draw you in, and it feels less like an album that you're listening to and more like a sonic journey through matter, through mind, and like all the other elements. I think this is an amazing record, and it has this amazing mix done by Ackle, who is also the guitarist of the band. Each track flows into the next seamlessly, and if you thought you were going to get bored listening to just sort of like an ambiental djent album, you'd be wrong, because they do bring in a lot of the heavier vibe as well that's heavily inspired by Meshuggah. If you follow Tesseract at all, you know that they look up to Meshuggah as gods, and you can definitely hear that in this album. So if you're looking for an album that's more on the atmospheric vibe, it's a one where you want to just relax, you want to put it on and just go on an experience of a listening session, then this is definitely for you. They tried to do this again on Polaris, but I feel like it didn't quite hit the mark. And then the album after that, Sonder, saw them trying to incorporate more of their heavier side to the music. But in my opinion, I still think Ultra State is the best. And Ash's vocals are just so angelic, and it guides you through the whole process effortlessly. Next, we have the Godfathers themselves, Meshuggah. Of course, I had to put Meshuggah on this list because they invented it. Every other band on this list probably wouldn't be here without them. The album I went for is, of course, Abasi, which was probably their magnum opus of an album, and the one that pretty much made them a household name, featuring tracks such as Bleed, which the amount of videos online of musicians trying to emulate Bleed is, well, I can't count anymore. There's so many goddamn videos online of people trying to play either the drum pattern of Bleed, the guitar riffs, it's endless, as well as having their other iconic tracks such as Lethargica, Combustion, Abasi, and Dancers of a Discordant System. I don't have much to say about this album except the fact that if you want to hear the origins of this band, you gotta go for this. Like, this album's amazing. It's the heaviest shit you're ever gonna hear, and has inspired bands such as Viljarta, Humanity's Last Breath, all those insanely technical rhythmic bands. Just go listen to this one, you'll like it. And finally, to bookend this list, we have probably the most challenging listen on the list itself, and that is the band Animals as Leaders with their album Joy of Motion. Animals as Leaders is a three-piece project led by none other than Tosin Abasi, who has proven to be one of the most virtuosic guitar players to date. He's so virtuosic that he invents his own techniques when playing the guitar, and has sort of re-envisioned the way that we look at a guitar, with the guitar not just being a melodic instrument that plays the rhythm or plays the lead, but to also be used as a percussive instrument. This is done through his most famous method of thumping on the guitar, which the amount of people who've been inspired to write that way is insane. Now, why did I choose this album? Well, it's the most accessible one in the discography. Their latest release, Madness of Many, is another amazing thing. I found it went too experimental, and for the newer listener, I feel like it would have been too much too fast as a listen. However, with the Joy of Motion, it's a lot more balanced when it comes to their ridiculously experimental and technical side, as well as their more heavier rhythmics or more down-to-earth djent feel as well. This album also features their most iconic track, Physical Education, which is just a joy to listen to, and on top of all that, it is mixed by none other than the man himself, Nolly Getgood, who, man, his drum mixes are just the best. They are just the goddamn best. So if you're a person who comes more from like the jazzier, more progressive rock background, then you'll probably like this one the most, because it just incorporates so much of those elements. The drumming, heavily jazz inspired, as well as the guitar playing in the rhythmic section. There's also another instrumental project, but with the amount of stuff that is happening and the writing, you couldn't even really put a vocalist in that scenario. But anyway, that is it for this video. Those were my 5 picks to help you get into the djent genre. So with all that being said, I want you to comment down below, what do you consider to be the 5 quintessential djent albums? And what are your favorite in general? I really enjoyed doing this video and hope to make more in the future. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like. Also subscribe to keep updated on more content such as this. I have my live stream on Sundays, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for user submitted music. I just want to say a huge thank you for watching and supporting, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.